Sure, you thought about how to answer questions in an interview, but you also need to make sure you know how to ask questions in an interview to make sure that the organization and the position are a good fit for you and your career. I'm Ashley. I'm the lead mentor with Mentor Me, and today we're going to talk about 3 questions you should be asking in an interview to secure the job offer. And what's true is that when you get that email, when you get that call that says, hey, we'd like to, call you in to talk about your experience. We'd like to call you in to talk about if you're a good fit for this job. You're really excited. Maybe you pull out the job description. You're prepping on how to answer questions and talk about your expertise. But I think one of the things that we're not spending enough time on is thinking about what questions you should be asking in the interview to make sure that you're positioning yourself as the top candidate. And when it comes to positioning yourself as a top candidate, the key thing that you want to do is make sure that you're positioning yourself as a problem solver. You want to position yourself as someone who has demonstrated experience solving the same kinds of organizational problems that they are already having in their organization. You want to position yourself as someone who has done the work that they need a professional to do, and that you can do that for them in their organization as well. And you will always be the top candidate when you're able to do that. When you're able to say, hey, I see you're having A problem, B problem, C problem, and I've solved these and or similar problems across the course of my career, you're always going to be the one that they want to work with, right? And so your job is to really make sure that you're positioning yourself as a top candidate. And of course you do that through answering questions in a way that demonstrates your expertise in the field. But more than just answering questions in the right way, you also want to make sure that this role is a good fit for you, that there are no red flags or, pitfalls in this organization that are going to derail your career. So it's not enough to just be thinking about how to answer interview questions in a way that will make the employer take notice, but you also need to be able to ask questions in a way that will have you standing out as a candidate. And so the things in today's live, we're going to talk about sort of how to make sure that you're asking really good questions in the interview, how to make sure you're asking good questions of the supervisor that would be directly supervising you, of the stakeholders or anybody else that's part of the search committee, so that you don't get blindsided and get an offer that is not a good fit for you, or continue to waste your time in interviews that are for roles that are not a good fit for you. So the number one thing that you need to do to prepare yourself to ask good questions in the interview are to know what you value, what you care about, what's a priority for you as you step into this new role, right? And so I think that this is something that kind of goes overlooked, right? Like so often we're in desperation when it comes to our career. I'm just desperate to get a job. I'm just desperate for my next opportunity. I'm just desperate to try to get out of my current organization. I'm just desperate for more money. So we often overlook a lot of the red flags when we are applying for roles. So the thing that you want to do when you get the call back, they want to interview, they want you to come to their organization and have an in-person interview, or they want to interview on Zoom. When you get that interview offer, you want to be thinking about, what are the things that I value as it relates to taking the next step in my career? What are the things that are more important to me than anything else about taking on this new role? Maybe for you, it's making more money. Maybe you're like, you know what, Ashley, I absolutely have to have a $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 salary increase in my next role. So it's a priority for me to work for an organization that's not cheap, that values its employees, and that are going to pay me at the level that I deserve and I desire, right? Maybe that's something that's a value for you. You want to know that. You want to know that going in. I know one of my personal values is autonomy and flexibility. I cannot work a job where I got to clock in and clock out. I need to have flexibility. I need to have autonomy in work projects. I need to be able to be creative and have creative solutions to how I approach the work. I cannot work in an organization that will not allow me to be creative and innovative and intentional about the way I lead my team and the way I approach my work, right? Maybe for you, your top value right now is faith, right? You want to work for for a faith-based organization. You want to work for an organization who values, believing in, a higher power outside of them, that they believe in faith-based work and faith-based approaches to solving problems. Maybe for you, your top value right now is family. Like, you're like, I can't work for an organization that won't allow me to be out of there by 4 p.m. to pick up my kids from school and to be able to spend time with them. I can't work in a job that's going to require me to be on call, right? And so whatever that is for you, right? You want to know going into the job interview what your values are. In my mentor programs, I always ask my mentees, we go through a series of exercises and assessments where I help my mentees, one, identify what their values are. So identify exactly what their values are. Number two, define those values. So describe what they mean to them in a meaningful way, and then measure the alignment, right? So measure the alignment between where they are right now in their life and career and where they want to be in their next role, right? So that's work that we do together in my mentorship programs. And if you know you need to kind of do an assessment on that and really go through your values and kind of like go through what you know you value, what you're unsure if you value, understand what it means to you, then you definitely want to join my mentorship programs, because we can do that work together. And the link to do so is in my bio. So the first thing we want to do is, go through what we value. And let's just say, let's just make up some values. So we're going to say your top values are going to be diversity, right? Autonomy, which means flexibility, being kind of able to work alone, to take on your own work projects, and not to have to clock in and clock out, have the flexibility of time and projects. So maybe your top 3 values are diversity, autonomy, and money, right? Wealth, right? Wealth is your top value, one of your top values. So we're just going to choose 3 for the purposes of this exercise. So the 3 questions that you should be asking in an interview, if your top values are diversity, autonomy, and wealth, right? One of the top things that you want to ask when you go on this interview are questions related to how this organization prioritizes diversity, autonomy, and wealth for its employees, right? A lot of times y'all go into interviews and they're like, well, what questions do you have for us? And you're like, well, I don't have no questions. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. You don't want to go into an interview saying you don't have any questions. Your whole job there is to be evaluating if this role is a good fit for you, right? Your whole job is to be evaluating if this organization, if this job, if this role, if this supervisor, if this team is a good fit for you. If you don't have any questions, you're not a good evaluator. You're not doing a good job of evaluating if this role, if this opportunity is a good fit for you. And quite honestly, you're wasting valuable and prime real estate to ask them the kind of questions you want to ask to identify if this is a good fit for you. Right? And if you've never thought about it this way, perhaps you've been job searching out of desperation. Perhaps you're so desperate to get an opportunity that you don't even ask no questions. You're like, I just hope they hire me. I ain't gonna ask no questions. I don't want to mess it up. That's the wrong way to be job searching. That's the wrong way to position yourself as an expert. That's the wrong way to position yourself as a top candidate. The top candidate is going to have questions. The top candidate is going to evaluate if this organization is a good fit for them. A top candidate isn't going to be job searching out of desperation because they know that they're not desperate, right? This organization needs them. It's not the other way around, right? And so it's critical that you approach your work in an interview as an opportunity to both position yourself as a top candidate and to evaluate the organization to really discern if it's a good fit for you, right? And the first step to do so is based on values, right? Identifying clearly before you even go into the interview exactly what you value, exactly what you're prioritizing in this season of your career, exactly what's important to you, right? And making sure that you're able to ask questions related to those things. So let's dive into this a little bit more deeply, right? So you know that you need to prepare for this interview and you want to ask questions based on what you value, right? And we've already determined in this exercise, we know that we value diversity, autonomy, and wealth, right? Those are the things that we value. We need to make money in this role. We don't want to be the only one in this role, and we don't want to be chained to a desk, right? We want to have flexibility and autonomy and be able to do the kind of things that we want to do in our role to find successful outcomes for the organization, right? So those are the things we value. So here are the kinds of questions, right, that you should be asking in an interview to identify if this organization is a good fit for you and to make sure there's value alignment between you and what you value and what this organization values, right? So that's the work that you want to do. So question number 1, I like to ask this question as it relates to diversity in interviews. So you should ask, how has this organization demonstrated its value of diversity and equity inclusion over the last year, right? In what ways has this organization demonstrated its value of diversity, equity, and inclusion over the last year? Right? This is not asking them for their diversity statement. This is not asking them how many Black people or brown people or disabled people or, whatever work there. This is asking how have they demonstrated their commitment to the values that you have in their organization, right? And an organization that actually does value diversity and equity and inclusion is going to be able to demonstrate the ways in which they've done this. An organization who does not value that is going to be like, oh yeah, well, we value it. It means a lot to us. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that, but nothing's working. They're going to have full of excuses. But for an organization who actually values this, they're going to be able to easily prioritize or easily be able to speak to how they've prioritized the operationalizing of those values in their organization. So they're going to be able to do that. That's question number one. You want to be able to ask, how has this organization demonstrated its commitment and values related to diversity, equity, and inclusion within the organization over the past year, right? They should be able to easily answer that. If that's something that you value, you need to ask them how they value it and how they demonstrated that value over the past year. That's question number one, right? And as I'm going through these, if there are values that you have, if there are things that you want to ask about in a job interview, if there are things you always want to ask about in a job interview, but you're never sure when to ask or how to ask, drop those in the comment section so that I can help you through that. I think sometimes we have questions of employers, but we're scared to ask, or we don't know when to ask, or we don't know how to ask. So if you have a question that you always wanted to ask an employer, but you never know when to ask, or if you wonder how you should ask it, drop that in the comment section and I will respond directly to you. I'm obviously giving some examples here, but I want to be able to respond directly to your questions, so drop them in the chat. All right, so that's one. Number two is we said we value money, right? We value wealth. We need to be paid better. In our role, we need to make more money. We need at least a $20,000-$30,000 salary increase in this next role. So you're asking, Ashley, what kind of questions should I ask them to figure out how much money, this job will pay me, or if they value, paying their employees well, right? So one of the questions you can ask is, it kind of depends on the information you have available to you. But one of the questions that you can ask, is you can simply say, given my demonstrated, experience and expertise related to this role, a salary of X is aligned with my expertise. Would you agree, right? Or you can say something like, I saw online that that this position was posted with a salary range of X and X. My salary requirements are at Y. Will you be able to meet my salary requirements given my expertise, right? So you always want to, when you are positioning yourself as a top candidate, it's absolutely okay to ask how much the role is going to pay, right? It's okay to ask that question. We want employers to just be transparent about the salary range or about the stated payout or salary range for the role on the job posting, right? We want employers to do that, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they aren't transparent about that. Sometimes they're holding that back, things like that. So instead of just hoping and praying that they might pay you at the level that you desire, you can simply say to an employer, here are my salary expectations given my demonstrated expertise in this role. Will you all be able to meet my salary expectations, right? So you can simply ask that. Another thing around money that people fail to ask that I think is a huge mistake is that you want to make sure it's not just about the salary, right? It's not just about how much they're going to pay you. It's about the benefits. It's about the professional development. It's about, sometimes it's about like, can I work hybrid or remotely so that I don't have to spend money driving to the office every day? So one of the things that you can ask, or one of the things that you can say is, across the course of my career, I've prioritized professional development in the form of going to 2 annual conferences in my functional area. Will this role be able to support me in sustaining, will this role be able to support me in sustaining professional visibility and growing as a professional with professional development funds, right? And I always recommend that you should have a professional development fund at a minimum of 5% of your annual salary, right? You should have a minimum of 5% of your annual salary. So whatever, let's say your annual salary is $100,000, you should have a minimum of a professional development budget of $5,000 at minimum, right? And so, when it comes to prioritizing wealth and money, right? If that's important to you in this season of your career, if making more money is important to you, it's okay to ask about money in the interview. When you ask it, and the timing of that is really critical. And if you want to ask about like when you should ask, feel free to just drop a comment in the chat. Or you can send me a DM, or, if you're watching this on YouTube later, you can comment in the YouTube and I can kind of go into details with you on that. But definitely it's always okay to ask for money. Like, we know we are not bartering. People are going to pay you for this work. So don't be shame about asking for money. Like, you want to be strategic about it, but you can always ask. And then the final question that we wanted to go through, we talked about, right, the fact that when it comes to asking questions in interviews, we always want to have questions. We never want it just to be like, well, what's the next step in the interview, or when can I expect to hear back from you? You want to ask meaningful questions in an interview so you can be positioning yourself as a top candidate. So we talked about asking specific questions related to diversity and inclusion. We talked about asking specific questions related to money and salary and wealth. Another question another value that you might have, let's say you value autonomy, you value flexibility. You want to be able to work for an organization who isn't going to chain you to a desk, who isn't going to be like watching you as you clock in and out. Like, you want to work in an organization that allows you to be creative in your problem solving and creative in your approach to your work, right? Like, that's important to you. That's a priority for you. So how do you ask about that? One of the ways that you can ask about that is you can say, I, across the course of my career, I've been able to develop and implement creative and innovative solutions to solve organizational problems. Is that creative and innovative approach something that you all would value in this organization as well? Right? So you want to, all the time when you're asking questions, you want to ask the question in a way that demonstrates what you're already good at, that demonstrates your expertise, that already shows you as an expert, and then invites them to say, do you value that expertise? Do you see that expertise, and do you value that, right? So every time we ask a question, we're basically saying, I'm that girl. Do you see it? I'm that girl. Will you appreciate that? I'm that girl. Can I be that girl here? Or are you going to try to stifle me and my expertise and tamp me down and not let me be the shining star that I am, right? And it's important to ask these questions now in the interview before you get to a job offer. Because if you don't ask now, what ends up happening is that you get the job offer and you're so excited because maybe they're going to pay you a little bit more, or it's a hybrid position, or it's fully remote. And you forget that this is an organization that's going to be watching every click you make on the website. They're going to be not valuing diversity and inclusion. They're not going to pay you at the level that you desire, right? Like, we have to ask critical questions in interviews to make sure that we're not taking on a role that will not value us and see us as the expert that we are. So I definitely want to invite you to interrogate these organizations. Don't job search out of desperation. Make sure that you're really evaluating if these organizations are a good fit for you. And if you're unsure, that's what I'm here for. As a mentor, I'm here to help you be strategic about your job search so that you're not just going in there, applying for any job that you see that you think you might be able to do, and going in there and just asking questions using the SMART method, and then not actually asking any questions that would help you position yourself as a top job candidate, and make sure that these organizations are a good fit for you. Because it's not just about you being a good fit for them. It's about them being a good fit for you. At this stage in your career, you can't afford to just take on any job and hope for the best. You really have got to be strategic. And my job as a mentor is to help you do just that. If this live was helpful for you, just throw some hearts up on the screen. I want to see them. I want to know, yes, Ashley, I was taking notes. Yes, this was helpful. Yes, I'm going to be thinking a lot more about my values. Yes, I'm going to be asking questions in interviews that actually help me position myself as a top candidate. And if you know you need more support around this, if you're like, Ashley, I don't know how to ask questions in interviews. I don't know how to answer a question in interviews. I'm not even getting interviews. I'm just applying for jobs and hoping for the best and nothing's happening. If that's where you are in your career right now, this is an invitation to you to schedule a free call with me. I'm accepting new mentees right now. And if you feel like, you know what, Ashley, I've been watching your videos and I feel like this might be a good fit for me, then, definitely go ahead and schedule that call with me. If you've been in one of my mentorship programs before and you want access to a higher level program or my ongoing mentorship, then you can just send me a DM, send me a note. I'm here to support you. But I just want you to know that I'm accepting new mentees right now. And so if you know you would benefit from expert level mentorship, if you need a strategy in your career development, if you're kind of tired of like trying to piece it together and trying to see and make something work, but you're like, Ashley, no, I actually need a plan because what I've been doing is not working. The questions I've been asking in interviews are not working. I'm not even getting interviews. I'm not even getting the callbacks. Yeah, like this is your time to shine. One of my mentees, Vanya Miller, said, run, don't walk to mentor me. Thank you, Vanya, for that rousing endorsement. I love when my mentees join my lives on social because they will tell you, they'll tell you the real. Like Vanya successfully completed my Mentor Me Accelerator program, is thriving in her career in education and continuing to advance. And so, I'm so glad that you can strongly recommend Mentor Me programs. Thank you, Vanya, for that shout out. I appreciate you. And obviously, you don't have to take my word for it, right? You can talk to my mentees. I have tens of hundreds of testimonials across my social media sites, on my website. If you click on success stories, you'll see live videos of my mentees talking about the success they had in working with me. And if you're looking for that same success, if you're like, Ashley, what I'm doing is not working in my career, girl, and I've been following you for days, weeks, months, maybe years. Some of y'all have been following me for years and we still haven't scheduled that call. So definitely schedule that call today. So if you are definitely someone who's like, I need to do something different in my career because what I was doing in 2022 is not working. If it's not working, then it's time to do something new. And I'm excited to help you. I'm excited to serve you. You can go right to my website at mentor-me.org. That's mentor-me.org. And you can see my calendar there. You can schedule a free call with me. Like I said, I'm accepting new mentees now through Friday. So applications close on Friday. So go ahead and get that call scheduled. And then we'll meet this week. And then I'm accepting new mentees for my December and my January cohort. So if you want to get in before February 1st, before Black History Month, if you're trying to celebrate a new job in Black History Month, if you're trying to be Black excellence in Black History Month, the time for you to work with me is now. So schedule that call. I'm so excited to serve you, so excited to support you in your career, and so excited to help you be more strategic in your career development. Thanks so much for watching. Talk soon.